Oh, beloved and infinite Creator, we thank you for this beautiful opportunity to come together in devotion. We are filled with joy and praise for your works, for the wonder of it all. We are so grateful to be joined in this space, more sacred than any building, the sanctuary of our hearts. So may our spirits grow and our souls be uplifted today as we join together to connect to the joy and divinity that resides within. So be it. Good morning. I am Wendy Harmic. I'm a ministerial student here at ISD, and I'm very delighted to be joining you this morning. And today is Palm Sunday, which we wanted to acknowledge while we cannot celebrate in our traditional way by handing out roses with our special ceremony. But Reverend Rob will speak to this during the announcements later in the service. The Institute for Spiritual Development is a God-centered, spiritually inclusive metaphysical church and community dedicated to our growing spiritual awareness in an atmosphere of unconditional love and acceptance. Welcome home. Beloved Mother, Father, God, awaken us to that spark of oneness within, where the consciousness of God dwells deep inside the multidimensional aspects of our being. Help us to open our hearts and become as one in unity and community. Let us join our energies together in a synergistic whole, far greater than the sum of its parts and far more magnificent than we can imagine. Show us the way to loving kindness and compassion, not just toward one another, but toward ourselves, because that is where it truly begins, in our own hearts. Teach us to be the living expression of divine compassion as we choose to embody it and share it into the world. And from that balanced place of higher mind, guided by the wisdom of the higher heart, may we align to the inner power that will evolve the consciousness of humanity, and in so doing, together we will change the world till it is a reflection of the beauty and grace of God that it was intended to be. Amen. Please join me now in saying the Lord's Prayer. This is the Unitarian Universalist version, translation by Fred Culp. Indwelling God, who art infused throughout all existence, we hallow thee with many names. Thy kingdom is within the human heart. We accept life for all that it can be, on earth as throughout all creation. May we continue to draw sustenance from this earth, and may we receive forgiveness equal to our own. May we ever move from separation toward union, to live in grace, with love in our hearts, forever and ever. So mote it be. And now, let us affirm the principles of understanding that unite us. We believe in infinite intelligence. We believe that infinite intelligence expresses itself in all existence and in humanity as a manifestation of divine love. We affirm the unity of all life everywhere. We believe in communion with all planes of existence, and that meaningful communication flows from this connection. We affirm the divine right of each individual to seek the truth in accordance with their consciousness, and that living in harmony with that truth defines true spirituality. We affirm that spiritual unfoldment is progressive and unending, and that the doorway to reformation is never closed against any soul. We believe that the highest morality is contained in the mandate, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We affirm the personal responsibility of the individual, and that we choose our happiness or unhappiness as we apply the laws of the universe. We affirm that life is eternal, and that the existence and personal identity of the individual continue after the change called death. We believe the ultimate expression of God in our life is unconditional love of our neighbors and ourselves. We accept that the living gifts of prophecy and healing, reported in all sacred scripture, are an affirmation of divine spirit working through us. Let us now enter into the wholeness and well-being portion of our service. O gracious Spirit of love and compassion, send your loving energy of perfect wholeness and well-being to all those gathered here today, and to those we now hold in our hearts and whose names we speak out loud. We speak their names aloud in order to anchor our sincere intentions into this earthly plane, thus amplifying the beneficial energies we offer in your name. We are so grateful for the opportunity to care for one another by joining our hearts together in divine healing prayer. We want wholeness and well-being at all levels, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual in nature. Beyond just physical health, we also ask to feel the joy of life, for grace and ease in living, so that we may thrive each day. Help us to practice compassion for ourselves and for others, and teach us to be happy through compassion. Allow us to be your eyes and hands on earth as we minister to one another, and let us hold each other in the perfect light of God's grace. Amen. Please make yourselves comfortable now as we prepare for meditation. If you can do so comfortably, have your back straight, have your legs and your arms uncrossed. You may wish to put your hands on your lap, palms up in a receiving position. Some people like to do that. And now I invite you to begin to breathe more slowly and more deeply. Take a few deep breaths at your own pace, visualizing the breath moving in and out in a continuous circle flowing through your body. Breathing in and breathing out. Feel your body start to relax naturally as your breathing gently slows. Continue to breathe gently at your own pace. Now picture a beautiful column of honey golden light streaming down from a point about 3 feet above your head. And don't worry if you don't see anything, just have the intention and it makes it so. You can feel the soft, warm, loving energy pouring in through the crown, gently flowing down throughout your entire body, circulating through every nook and cranny of your being and flooding it with golden light. Allow this light to run down your spine, down your arms, down your legs, and out the base of the spine and the soles of the feet into the receiving arms of Mother Earth. Be like a tree pulling in light from above and anchoring and sending its energetic roots into the ground. This will be your grounding cord. Allow it to anchor you deep into the molten core of the earth. And as this golden light from above continues to descend and wash through you, allow it to dissolve any tension accumulated in your body. Let it soften and shake loose all those old energies that are stored in your energetic body's field, and particularly around the heart, those that no longer serve you. Over the years, we build energetic constructs to protect ourselves, and they serve us at one time, perhaps as children, but then later they become walls. They become barriers and boundaries to that which we wish to receive as well. So let us dissolve those in this moment. Allow this light to continue to soften and wash through you, pouring those old errant energies straight into Mother Earth, where she will transmute and transform them for reuse for higher purpose. Relax and continue to let go. Just relax. Keep breathing, breathing in and breathing out. And with each exhale, just feel those energies washing down into the earth. It's as if you're being washed clean and you're being filled with golden light. Now I ask you to focus on your heart. You may want to place a hand over it so that your attention follows you there. Intentionally connect to that divine spark of God that resides there. And with each breath, see your heart filling more and more with this divine golden light of spirit. And then allow it to spill over out into your aura until you become literally a bubble of golden light. With each breath, just see it filling your space, your energetic field, with this divine, beautiful, warm, comforting, soft presence of God. And now, let us join together in this transcendent moment of communion from our heart space. Let us join together as one giant light. And let us send this light out into the world to wherever you feel it is most needed. It's an infinite source. It can go to as many places as we can envision. So just each of you pick a place and send that beam of light. We are as one giant lighthouse beaming across the planet to wherever you want to send it. And it is going there through our intentions and through our communion with the Spirit of God and the divine power of our hearts. So this is the essence of compassion, the unimpeded flow of life's purest essence through each one of us. Again, breathe and allow. Be open to the continual intake and outflow of love moving through your being as we send this light across the world. Keep breathing. And now I invite you to gently start to return and pull your focus back into your body, pulling your auric light back in, pulling your heart light in, bringing it back into your personal field, back to your own body. You are now back in your own aura, but it is still filled with light, and so you shall remain. So start to breathe in more powerfully and exhale more forcefully. Do this several times, perhaps 3 times. Just to awaken and enliven the body. Bring yourself back into your body to feel yourself there. And gently and slowly return your focus back to the room in which you sit. And when you are ready, slowly open your eyes. If you would please join me now for the responsive reading, Salvation. There is a spirit in us, and the inspiration of the Almighty gives us understanding.
Understanding is the key to true salvation, for it reveals truth through a new measure of awareness and response.
Behold, now is the accepted time. Behold, now is the day of salvation.
From the beginning, you have been chosen for salvation through sanctification by the Spirit and belief in the truth.
Teach me, compassionate presence, not to torture myself, condemning myself through stifling reflections, but rather teach me to breathe deeply in faith.
When I am focused on you with my whole being, I shall know no sorrow.
For we are saved by hope, but hope that is seen is not hope. For if we see it, why do we still hope for it?
But if we hope for what we do not see, then, with patience, we wait for it.
Right thought, constantly poured into consciousness, will eventually purify it. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may remain in you, and that your joy might be full.
Each has within oneself this guide to truth, to reason, to beauty, to right action, to certainty, and to peace.
Spirit has shown you what is good, and what is required of you but to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God.
So be it.
We have just turned the corner of the seasons with the spring equinox just behind us. And you may recall that at the autumn equinox, we chose the word compassion as a theme for the coming season. With all the chaos and disruption and suffering that we have seen across the world in this past year, we have certainly seen a great need for compassion. So I've spent a lot of time contemplating compassion. It was quite interesting. What does it mean? How does one show compassion? Why is it important to even be compassionate? In the responsive reading that we just completed, it says, right thought, constantly poured into consciousness, will eventually bring us to joy. In other words, we are restored to wholeness and well-being through alignment with the pure essence and guidance of God. Beautifully addressing the divine as the compassionate presence, we have asked to be guided to truth, reason, beauty, certainty, and peace through not torturing or condemning ourselves with our own thoughts. When we are resonant with the spirit of self-compassion, we become the best versions of ourselves that we can be. We vibrate at the highest octaves of our being in the full expression of the unique gifts that we have been brought to share and experience through one another here on this earthly plane. This opens us to a world of new solutions and new levels of creation and evolution, and we shall be filled with joy. We have had generations of programming telling us to listen to the mind over the heart. We emphasize intellect, we emphasize logic over emotion, often perceiving sensitivity to feelings as weakness. But now humanity is experiencing a huge shift in consciousness. And as we move up this next spiral of evolution, we are beginning to understand that it is time to go back to being guided from the heart. How do we do that? The answer is to practice compassion. Compassion is a word that encompasses or contains aspects of many of the most beautiful thoughts and feelings that humanity can express. Love, kindness, concern, caring, benevolence, mercy, sympathy, empathy, altruism. To name but a few, there are more. We can define it as a sympathetic feeling of concern for the sufferings or misfortunes of others, accompanied by a strong desire to alleviate that suffering. In other words, to put it simply, it's the ability to feel and be moved by suffering, whether it is a human, another living creature, the earth herself, or even ourself, and to want to do something about it, to want to help. His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, writes in his book, The Essence of the Heart Sutra, according to Buddhism, compassion is an aspiration. It is a state of mind, a wanting of others to be free from suffering. It's not passive. It's not empathy alone, but rather an empathetic altruism that actively strives to free others from suffering. Genuine compassion must have both wisdom and loving kindness. That is to say, one must understand the nature of the suffering from which we wish to free ourselves or others. That is wisdom. And one must experience deep intimacy and empathy with other sentient beings, and that is loving kindness. So let me tell you a story that exemplifies the power of compassion beautifully. A young man was driving home from work one evening. He was tired. He'd been working hard all day. He'd been having trouble finding work, and so he was really happy to have worked all day. But he was exhausted. And as he was heading home that night, it was just starting to get dark. And he noticed there was a car on the side of the road, and there was an elderly lady standing next to it. And as he approached, he saw cars whizzing by her. And so he pulled up behind her, and she had a beautiful Mercedes, he noticed. And then he asked if he could help. Now, she was really nervous about him because he was dirty and kind of disheveled, and frankly, he looked kind of lean and hungry. And she was very worried that he was planning to rob her because most people were not stopping to help her. But he introduced himself as Brian Anderson and kindly told her to please get back into her car to stay warm and that he would change a tire. It turned out it was just a flat tire. So they chatted a bit as he worked, and she explained she was visiting from a long ways and had quite a ways to go, and she had been stranded for several hours, so she was extremely grateful for his help. He finished quickly, and as he turned to leave, she asked him how much she owed him and could she pay him something for his efforts. Well, he said she didn't owe him anything. He was happy to do it, and then he said, I tell you what, next time you see someone who needs help, you help them out, and you consider that paying me for what I did here today. So she agreed, and with that they smiled, and he watched as she was on her way and safely headed down the road. A few miles down the road, she saw a small cafe. She decided to stop there and eat and relax a bit before continuing on the last leg of her journey. When she was seated, a waitress kindly brought her a fresh towel to use to dry her wet hair, and the older lady noticed that the waitress was at least 8 months pregnant, and there she was, working hard, on her feet, and still with a smile on her face. The waitress took very good care of the woman and made her feel quite comfortable, even though she was very tired from working all day as well. The older woman wondered how someone who had obviously had so little and who was clearly tired could still be so kind to a total stranger. And then she remembered Brian and his kindness to her and her promise to him. After the meal, the old lady paid with a $100 bill. The waitress went to the back to get change, but when she returned, the table was empty. She started to look around for the lady when she noticed there was a note written on the napkin. There were tears in her eyes as she read what the lady had written. You don't owe me anything. Someone once helped me out when I really needed it, and now I am helping you. To repay me, please help someone else, and don't let this chain of love end with you. Under the napkin were 4 more $100 bills. Later that night, when the waitress got home, her husband was already asleep, and as she climbed into bed, she thought about the money and the note that the woman had written. How could she have known how desperately they needed the money with the baby coming and her husband barely able to find work? It was going to be so hard for them, but now things would be so much better. She was so grateful. And knowing how worried her husband was, she softly whispered into his sleeping ear, "Everything is going to be okay now. I love you, Brian Anderson." So this is a beautiful example, a perfect example of compassion, where loving kindness for the needs of another leads to a chain of actions to alleviate suffering, in turn leading to good for all. So all major religions and spiritual traditions extol the virtue of compassion. They have great gods or avatars who represent this: the goddess Kuan Yin, Mother Mary, Jesus the Christed One himself, the path of the Buddha. So the benevolence and mercy of these beings is well known, and people appeal to them for intercession all the time. And in the path of the Buddha, he taught that showing compassion is something you can do for others, even if all other parts of the teachings are difficult to follow. We can all be compassionate. And the Dalai Lama states, compassion is not religious business, it is human business. It is not luxury, it is essential for our peace and for our survival and our mental stability. We can reject everything else, religion, ideology, received wisdom, but we cannot escape the necessity of love and compassion. This then is my true religion, my simple faith. In this sense, there is no need for temple or church, for mosque or synagogue. No need for complicated philosophy, doctrine, or dogma. Our own heart, our own mind is the temple. The doctrine is compassion. Love for others and respect for their rights and dignity, no matter who or what they are. Ultimately, that is all we need. Sometimes we have an easier time being compassionate with animals or children or those we already like. It is important to practice compassion with those who are more challenging for us. And this may well mean yourself. We are often the most judgmental and harsh with ourselves. Self-compassion is a critical component to becoming enlightened. It opens your heart and your mind, and it leads to unity consciousness. These are the two most important tools for enlightenment: meditation and compassion. Meditation also encourages and fosters an awakening mind with compassion. New studies have shown that cultivating compassion and kindness actually changes the regions of the brain that light up. And we also produce oxytocin, which is sort of the love hormone. And so we experience compassion in the neurobiology of the body, and we enhance bonding and nurturing behaviors. This also connects us to one another through our compassion. The most beautiful people we have known are those who have known defeat, known suffering, known struggle and loss, and have found their way out of the depths. These persons have an appreciation and a sensitivity and an understanding of life that fills them with compassion, gentleness, and deep loving concern. Beautiful people do not just happen. An attitude of compassion does not mean looking down on someone or pitying them in their misery. Compassion is based on respect. We discuss life as equals, we learn from each other, and we strive together to improve our lives. Now, in Western culture, we tend to value compassion toward others, but not toward ourselves. We can see clearly it's good to be a kind and supportive friend and be good to others, but we treat ourselves so differently. Why is that? We often feel that we need to be self-critical or punish ourselves in order to motivate ourselves. Unfortunately, this makes it even more painful to be honest about your weaknesses or flaws or mistakes or things that need correcting or changing. We lose faith in ourselves. We get depressed or we get paralyzed, analysis paralysis. All those things happen for fear of failure. Or the ego will try to shift blame to someone else, and we don't even acknowledge our own responsibility in the matter. When you have self-compassion, you have the courage and the emotional safety net to be able to say, "I'm sorry," or "I was at fault." And from that, you have the clarity and the wisdom not only to see what needs changing, but the emotional strength and courage to actually do it. Psychologist and expert in the field of self-compassion, Kristen Neff, has identified 3 main components to self-compassion. The first is self-kindness as opposed to self-judgment. Speak kindly to yourself. Be warm and supportive when things are going wrong. Talk to yourself the way you would talk to someone that you love, even when you're not happy with perhaps what you have done. Second, remember, imperfection is a piece of the shared human experience. We all suffer. We all have our pains. We all have our stories. There is no one who is exempt from this on the planet. This is part of the human condition. So in remembering that, you remember that, yes, I am one with everybody else. I'm not so different. I'm not worse than anybody else. And the third thing is mindfulness. You must be present and aware that you are suffering and that you need to do something about it and the cause of that. If you're just repressing your pain or ignoring it or getting lost in problem solving, so you're kind of avoiding it that way, then you're not really giving yourself compassion and you cannot change things. So here's some tips to show compassion in general. Start by practicing self-compassion. Put yourself in someone else's shoes. Move beyond self-referencing. Practice kindness without people-pleasing. Relax your judgments. Listen generously. Heal your own trauma. And practice being present. That's one of the greatest gifts of compassion we can give anyone, is just presence. So be present with yourself as well. Listen to yourself. Pay attention. In our story today of Brian Anderson, his wife and the old lady, there were elements of all these factors. Each had their own suffering and need. Each displayed compassion and through kind action helped another. And that grace flowed through them full circle, a sending forth of a gift of love that would continue to expand for the higher good of all. So I invite you to leave here today in a spirit of compassion. Take your place as an active energy in the honoring and encouraging of one another. Have compassion for all sentient beings, but I offer that you begin with yourself first. Recognize that suffering, pain, and failure are experienced by all of humanity. Be mindful and present with yourself. And then you will have that tender strength and inner resilience available during the harder times. And you will see it expand and grow and bloom around you, spilling out into the world and spreading. Creator God only has love and compassion for us, so let us learn to treat all beings, including ourselves, in this way. Choose to align your heart to the divine heart with the intention of becoming the living expression of a compassionate and loving God. Namaste. And now, let us combine our purest intentions together as we ask for guidance and strength to shepherd this beautiful spiritual community into its highest trajectory moving forward. Please join me in our prayer of stewardship. Infinite Spirit, at this blessed gathering today, we celebrate the divinity of all that is. We honor the Institute for Spiritual Development as a living entity, brought to extraordinary life by the presence of everyone here now, by the essence of the ancestors who have come before us, and by the imagination of the souls who will come after us, carrying her into the future. We ask you to give us strength to heed her call of stewardship, so together we can make her who she was created to be, a beacon guiding all spiritual seekers to a developing connection to the divine within. May we always encourage, inspire, and energize one another in sharing our gifts, talents, and resources to ensure our spiritual community's life, longevity, and legacy. Amen. And as we enter into the prosperity section of our service, I invite you to think of the abundance of the gifts in your life and to allow yourself to experience a deep appreciation for that abundance so that we can proclaim, divine love always has, and divine love always will answer all of our needs. And know that your contribution, no matter how big or how small, is a critical source of sustenance for our beloved community and our church. We are deeply grateful for the beautiful spirit of giving that has kept alive our community over the past year. Please envision your gifts supporting an aspect that you would love to see grow and expand and encircling all that it touches. And let us set the intention that generosity begets more generosity and brings even greater abundance to our community, the beautiful building where we convene, and to each spiritual seeker who enters therein. We thank you, Divine Spirit, for the gifts that are offered today and for the many blessings that life has showered upon us. Help us to see and appreciate the abundance that truly exists within as well as without. And grant that what is offered today here flows outward in an ever expanding circle of gratitude and love until all are contained therein. Amen. And now I would like to turn it over to our beloved Reverend Rob for some announcements. Rob?
Thank you, Wendy. I would like to start by thanking you and the team that put this service together there in Virginia. Brenda Paradiso and Reverend Janet Johnson, who have been very supportive and worked with Wendy to bring this beautiful service to us today. So thank you all so much for all of your hard work. I dipped into in the middle of the hard work yesterday, but I was not of it. So I really appreciate everything that's gone into it. Beautiful homily, Wendy. Beautiful message for this time and spring. I just wanted to briefly acknowledge this Sunday, which is usually our service of the roses, and Reverend Jim, who is here, can most likely say a little more that I don't fill in, because it is legendary, actually. And so this is Palm Sunday, and this is the time where Jesus enters the gates of Jerusalem and is greeted with triumph. And most people ask how, if he was entering in such a triumphant way, things could have turned the way that they did. And we now know that you cannot take one part of an experience that is supposed to happen, that is supposed to bring us into the light, and remove any of it, or else none of it would happen, or even would even make sense. So we celebrate this time. We celebrate the rise and fall. We celebrate the dark night of the soul that leads us into the light, and it all begins today. We traditionally have given away roses on this day, and it is because when in Super Spiritual Development sought to gather palms for the Palm Sunday, the florist said that we were not a church, would not sell us the palms, and so the wise leadership of Reverend James DiBiasio said, well, we won't take your palms, we'll take your roses. So it became a beautiful tradition in the church. We would normally, during affirmation of spirit, take a moment to just hold on to the roses that we receive at church, meditate on the beauty of that rose, meditate on the gifts of the season, and then at the end of the service, we would form an arch of all of those that have been trained with healers at ISD, and everyone walks through these arches of roses, and it's just such a beautiful experience. And so we are looking forward to having that again in person. But just know that as we begin this Easter season, this is a special day, and it's one where we've kind of claimed it for ourselves. So that leads me to talk about this week coming up. I'm going to start with Tuesday night. We've got our final service, our final book discussion circle with Reverend Joanne Dawkins. We have been talking about the words of love of the mystic poet Rumi. And we are working with the book, The Enlightened Rumi, which is kind of, I think, a new required reading, I think. So you don't need to have had the book, but we are going to be discussing on this final class some of Rumi's random quotes. And so we're inviting everyone to kind of bring their favorites to the session and then to discuss them. We've been meditating on these words. We've been going deep, and we've been speaking substantively about some of these very beautiful words. So feel free to join us for the last session. We would love to have you there. This weekend is, I cannot believe it is Easter weekend, but it is. And so we lead the weekend with our Service of the Shadows, which we will be streaming from the sanctuary, from ISD's beautiful sanctuary, and engaging in the full ritual of the candles and the extinguishing of the light. And so please join us there. We'll post the links to the Zoom service, which if you're going to join us on Zoom, we're going to ask that you register, which you can do on our website. And then you can also join us on YouTube Live as well. And then Sunday at 10 a.m., not 11, 10 a.m., ministerial representatives from 3 of our ISDs will be gathering to do an all ISD Sunday, Easter Sunday service. And we are very excited about this. This is our second joint venture with with all of our ISDs. We're so excited to be able to work with our brothers and sisters and to present ourselves as a national, if not international, church that is growing and that continues to reach out and meet the spiritual needs and joys of so many people. And I'm going to ask Reverend Fran if she can to just briefly talk about our very special session with her Saturday morning class, which is also featuring a guest from our ISD in Sparta.
Yes, good morning, everyone. We are delighted that this Saturday, Reverend John Drinkard of Sparta will lead us on a shamanic journey, talk about shamanism, and the journey will be in the Celtic tradition. So please come and join us at 10 a.m. this coming Saturday.
Thank you, Reverend Fran. And then finally, we're starting something new on Wednesday evening. So mark your calendars. The months that have 5 Wednesdays, we are going to take that 5th Wednesday evening and we are going to bring back a program that we had, which we were having as a movie night on Friday nights. I called it as a spiritual screen and share, and how appropriate that we can share our screens on Zoom, which is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be watching an episode, the first episode of a beloved situation comedy called The Good Place, which is a comedy that deals with life and the afterlife and the life that we've lived before we've reached the afterlife. The screening will take about 20 minutes of the sitcom, and then we'll have some time to talk about it. I love this show, and I would love to be able to share the delight of the show and the complex but accessible philosophical issues that it does bring up. So please join us Wednesday night at 7:30. It is free. We're going to ask that you register though, so because we are going to be screening a movie or a television show. So if you can register, you'll get the link for the Zoom meeting when you register. And check the website. We will see you all soon. Oh, I also want to thank the readers and the participants in last night's Psychic Fair Online. We had yet another beautiful, intimate session of readers and participants who all engaged in this beautiful energy, receiving lots of intuition from spirit. So great night. Thank you all for your engagement. And I will now stop. So thank you. Back to you, Wendy.
Thank you, Reverend Rob. So returning now to our order of service, let us join together in saying the congregational prayer, Path to Happiness. May we realize, great teacher, that we cannot be happy until we seek satisfaction in spiritual progress, thus guarding our peace of mind from all influences that would destroy it. Let us understand that all happiness comes not by aimlessly thinking about it, but by striving to express it in all our moods and actions. No matter what tasks we are performing, teach us to feel the divine undercurrent, the hidden river of bliss ever flowing beneath the sands of our myriad thoughts and the rocky soil of our difficulties. May we be secretly joyous in spite of all adverse circumstances, knowing that happiness is our birthright, our divine treasure. Guide us to find in the soul the riches beyond the dreams of kings. So let it be. And now our lovely Reverend Janet will give an affirmation of spirit through messages.
Can I have the gallery?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. I am going to, let's see. Jake, may I come to you, please?
Yes, please.
Okay. Do not continue to think oh, I'm stuck here. I'm stuck here. Because you're not. Okay? You have clarity. Just you're in a place physically, but you know your mind can go anywhere. Okay? Your mind can go anywhere. And you need to recreate that mind. So once, when you're able to move physically, you say, okay, I can go here, I want to go there, because that's where I found a little and more happiness that I normally would have had. And the time of that healing is getting shorter and shorter because you're going to be walking. You're not walking, you're going to be running. Okay?
Not sure about that one.
So just remember, clarity is there for you. Do not continue in the mode, oh, I'm stuck. You're not, because you're moving, and once you start moving, it's going to go supersonic. Let's put it this way. Okay?
Oh, thank you. I needed that.
Bless you. Thank you. Oh, infinite spirit, here we go.
Hold on.
Can I go to Reverend Rob?
Wait.
Okay. I want you to know our dear beloved Reverend Rob, and I say that with lots of love and honor. We're celebrating the roses, and we're going to go through a stage of we got to go through the dark path, but it's just a brief path because we have seen more light lately than we've seen darkness. Okay, this pandemic has kept us not in the dark, but it's really shown us we really have to embrace the light.
Okay.
And that's what you have been doing. Beyond that, let's put it this way. And just remember that there's more elementals coming your way to make your life not miserable, but entertaining. Okay? Now I go to Reverend Jim.
Thank you, dear.
You're welcome. You're not supposed to be with daffodils. You're supposed to be with roses.
That's beautiful.
I couldn't get the roses, but these daffodils were from the church last year.
Oh, awesome. As you can see, we're honoring the roses here today. White roses today. So, I mean, even though I'm not part of the service, but for a little bit, I made sure that Wendy had it here so she would have it. And everyone here today has a spiritual white rose, which means the purity of what ISD can do for you. We thank you from the bottom of our heart for being our founder, and know that your words are wisdom beyond what we can really collect here. Bless you.
Thank you.
Say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Can I come to Anne, please?
Yes, please. Did she hear me?
Anne,
Yes.
have you been finding yourself a little bit difficult communicating things, or just the pronunciation, or just not letting yourself be known what you want to do?
Some, yes.
Okay. This is just because of, if I'm correct, Brenda, all of these planetary items that are happening to all of us. You're not alone, okay? You're not alone, okay?
Right.
As soon as this full moon passes, which is in the process of happening, you'll see that the easiness is going to come back to you. But also, a lot more communication is going to come from the other side, especially in your healing potential. It's going to grow again exponentially.
Mm.
So be ready to receive those energies as they will continue going through with you. Okay?
Thank you.
Bless you. Smile next to you, please, John. Thank you. Virginia, may I come to you?
Yes, please.
Okay. The key word comes today for you is balance. Not because you have not been in balance, because you have been, but they're saying the balance is higher at this point for you than it's ever been. Okay? I'm not saying throwing, they're just trying to bring in more communication to you, and you're going to feel off balance. And that's what they're saying. Come back to balance. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Wendy, can I come to you?
Oh, sure, of course.
There is new things happening for you. Like I was saying earlier, continue writing your birthday energy, because by thinking that way, it's all coming back to you in a most beautiful way possible. And I'll give it back to Wendy Harmic.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Jim. Oh, and so in closing, beloved Spirit, Creator of all that is, as we go from this sacred space back out into our everyday lives, help us to keep in mind the simple ways that we can be more compassionate. Most importantly, let us find more compassion for ourselves, not just for other people. Help us to keep our hearts open so we can grow into the magnificent beings of love and light that we truly are. Breathe your compassion through us and fill our hearts. Guide us to your perfect love. Teach us to be the hands and eyes of tender compassion as we look upon our brothers and sisters, but also as we gaze into the mirror. Are we not beloved creations of God Himself as well? Honor yourself. Help us to remember the infinite blazing spark of living compassion that resides within us, and help us to practice the art of compassion within as we would practice the art of compassion without. And as we embrace the full expression of compassion, bless us with the knowing that the high wisdom of the illumined heart will guide us home to you. Amen. This concludes our service. Please hang around and talk to each other on our Zoom chat for some time. We'll leave it up for a little bit and enjoy the fellowship. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank
God
you,
bless you
Wendy.
all.
Thank you so much.